All right, so moving on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the NBA playoffs, the first round of the NBA playoffs. Where are we at currently standing in the first round of the NBA playoffs? So we'll start off with the Eastern Conference and work our way to the Western Conference. So currently in the Eastern Conference, we'll start off with the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics taking on the 8th seeded Miami Heat. Currently, the Boston Celtics have the 3-1 lead to the Miami Heat in this series. I think we all knew this was going to happen. I said it a week ago that the Celtics would steamroll us and gentlemen sweep us because we don't have Jimmy Butler. And I think the whole entire NBA world, the NBA community knew that if Jimmy Butler was not going to be healthy in this series, the Heat did not stand a chance against this Boston Celtics team. Other than Game 2, where the Heat set a record for most three-pointers made in a playoff game, this series has been lopsided. All 3 of the Celtics wins have been blowouts against the Miami Heat in this series. With Game 5 heading back to Boston, I think they'll pack us up, finish us off, and the Celtics will move on to the second round easily and very comfortably. But I shouldn't have said the word comfortably because Porzingis suffered an Achilles injury during the series. That might be something for the Celtics to worry about moving forward when you got to face much better competition later on in the playoffs, possibly for the NBA Finals, and Porzingis is going to miss a big significant amount of time with an Achilles injury. So I think that's something to look out for to the Celtics, but they will be advancing to the second round very easily, very comfortably. But then the next series, you have the number 2 seeded New York Knicks taking on the 7th seeded Philadelphia 76ers. Now, at the time I record this segment, the Knicks are leading the series 3-1. Now, this truly has been a fun series. If you have your eyes closed and just don't think about the series, who's up, who's down, and you just watch the games, it's been a fun series. And it's been very fun to watch, very entertaining, anticipated playoff series that we have seen between the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, last week on the podcast, I was talking about Jalen Brunson. What I thought would be best for him moving forward if the Knicks wanted to go on a deep playoff run, if the Knicks wanted to get to the NBA Finals, hell, if the Knicks want to win an NBA title this year. I said that Jalen Brunson had to answer the bell. And I held him accountable for his bad performances shooting from the field in Game 1 and Game 2. In Game 3, he showed up. He scored 39 points, had 13 assists. In Game 4, Sunday in Philadelphia, that man had the best performance in Knicks playoff basketball because what he did, putting the New York Knicks on his back in hostile territory and the Wells Fargo Arena, Jalen Brunson did his thing. He scored, the Wells Fargo Center. But Jalen Brunson scored 47 points, breaking the New York Knicks record for most points scored in a playoff game by any Knicks player in Knicks history. So you know that man meant business when he nearly outscored, when you take Jalen Brunson's points of 47, he nearly outscored everybody else on the New York Knicks that game against the Philadelphia 76ers. That is what a true superstar looks like, and the New York Knicks have found that. And I'm happy for him. But I really feel bad for the 76ers. I really do feel bad for him. Because they're not playing bad in this series. For this team not having Joel Embiid at 100%, and Joel Embiid giving everything he has in this series, it's just heartbreaking to me that they find themselves down 3-1 in this series. And was it Game 3 where Joel Embiid had 50 points? And they still find themselves down 3-1. I mean, he's playing as hard as he can, even with the nagging knee injury. But they're just playing a much better team offensively, much better team defensively. And the New York Knicks, I just don't see them coming back in this series. I think the Knicks will advance to the second round. Now, we have the 3rd-seeded Milwaukee Bucks taking on the 6th-seeded Indiana Pacers. The Pacers lead this series 3-1. Now, I told you guys before this series started, on episode 151 to be exact, I told you guys that the Pacers had the Bucks they had them on upset alert. It started with the confidence that was going to grow with the Pacers heading into the playoffs, being up 4-1. And I said the reasons why I had the 4-1 against them in the regular season. The reasons why I had them losing this series was, again, the Pacers having their number in the regular season, being the 4-1. Doc Rivers, the coaching of Doc Rivers has always been suspect in the playoffs since he won a title with the Boston Celtics. And the health of Giannis, who we have not seen make an appearance in this series at all. Those three reasons were the reasons why I believe that the Pacers could get past the Bucks. And even after Damian Lillard's impressive Game 1 performance, the Pacers took that personally, and they have never looked back because they have been a more physical, more dominant team, and wanted it more than the Bucks this entire series after Game 1. And that's why they find themselves up 3-1 in this series as I record this segment. Now, with Damian Lillard injured, when he was injured Game 3 and did not play Game 4, and Giannis and Damian Lillard are not set to play in Game 5 with a winner-go-home scenario in place, seems to me that this season's over for the Bucks, and the Pacers will be moving on to the second round of the playoffs. So, then the final matchup in the Eastern Conference, you have the 4th-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the 5th-seeded Orlando Magic. This series is tied 2-2 as I record this segment. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this series to me has not been fun to watch. And I'm going to keep this one short, sweet, and simple for this series. There's been 2 blowout games and 2 somewhat competitive games that the Cavs have pulled away and won. I just feel like the Cavs won this series. I just don't really have the excitement really hasn't been there for me to watch the series compared to the other series in the playoffs. So now let's move on to the Western Conference. You have the number 1 seeded OKC that took on the 8th seeded New Orleans Pelicans, and they won that series, swept the Pelicans 4-0, clean sweep. The Thunder completed the sweep last night against the Pelicans, closing out the series, and they will be advancing to the second round to play the winner of the Clippers or the Mavericks in the second round. We pretty much knew that this was not going to be a competitive series with Zion not being in the picture, not being healthy, and he unfortunately got hurt in that play-in tournament game against the Los Angeles Lakers. This is actually a wild fact. Zion is the only NBA player from the 2019 lottery pick that never played in an NBA playoff game. That's wild to me, considering the fact that that man was the first overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft. Now, with that being said, I think the Pelicans are really going to have to make a decision on where they go with Zion and how the franchise moves forward, because clearly Zion can be special when he's on the court. But when he's not on the court, it affects the team. It affects their potential, because that is their best player. And when he's not on the court, you can't win championships. You can't have playoff success if your best player is not available on the court. And every year, when it's time for the play-in tournament, whether it's time for the playoffs, Zion Williamson is never around and he's never available. So I think the Pelicans really got to do some research on this. They got to do their homework on this NBA offseason during the summer to see if Zion is really their guy in New Orleans. Do they trade him to get some more assets to try to build the team maybe around Brandon Ingram if they want to keep him? This is something that they're really going to have to consider this summer, because the fact that Zion is always MIA when it's time to buckle down and win games to help your team one day dream of a championship, he's never there. But for OKC's sake, the future is bright in Oklahoma. I always say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I've been saying it week in and week out. The man is special, and the OKC has a bright future. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they play the winner of the Clippers and Mavs series in a 7-game series, how they're going to match up against one of those two teams. Then you have the 2nd-seeded Denver Nuggets taking on the 7th-seeded Los Angeles Lakers. The Nuggets have won this series. The gentlemen swept the Lakers 4-1 last night. Now, the Nuggets might have part ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers at this point because they own the Lakers. They have their number. They're 11-1 against the Los Angeles Lakers in their last 12 meetings, counting the NBA playoffs in the last 2 years and their latest regular season matchups to the Lakers. So the Nuggets are just the better overall team. And we've seen this displayed in the Western Conference Finals last year, and we've got it displayed again this year in the playoffs. Jamal Murray was excellent in this series. He had 2 game winners from three-point range in this series. Definitely phenomenal for the Nuggets to have a guy like him. I'll definitely be talking about him later in the episode. But no matter how well LeBron James and Anthony Davis did play and contribute to the Lakers offensively, I won't put the blame on them, but it's just their supporting cast is not good enough to dethrone a team that's much better than them and the Denver Nuggets. And this is why the Nuggets are the reigning defending NBA champions. This is the reason why they have the Lakers number. They're just a more superior team. Now, the next series, you had the number 3 seeded Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the 6 seeded Phoenix Suns. You had the Timberwolves sweep the Suns to advance to the second round. Now, what I will say about this Timberwolves team, this is the first time since 2004 that the Minnesota Timberwolves have advanced past the first round in the NBA playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves have everything to be happy about because now they have Anthony Edwards, their guy, their franchise player. Anthony Edwards really is the future of the NBA. And when guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry all retire very soon, Anthony Edwards has the chance to be the true face of the NBA, or one of the faces of the NBA. But Anthony Edwards dominated this series against the Phoenix Suns, and they just had no answer for him. I truly see a glimpse of Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards. I'm not saying Anthony Edwards is going to be as good as Michael Jordan or all-time great as Michael Jordan, but I see a lot of characteristics in Anthony Edwards that you can rip apart from Michael Jordan and put on Anthony Edwards, because the man is a trash talker in big-time games and big-time moments, and he backs it up in clutch situations. He is a downhill slasher, doesn't care who's in his way. He's going to get physical. He's going to get nasty. He's going to yam on you in the paint, just like Michael Jordan did. So I think Anthony Edwards is a true character. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player for the Timberwolves. They got their guy, and I think he's going to help them achieve a lot of great things in the future. But meanwhile, for the Suns, I've been saying this for the last 365 days. Since they got Bradley Beal, the Suns will never win a title with their roster. They have no debt, no salary cap, and the only way to get this team better is to trade either Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. And why would you trade either one of them if you still have aspirations for a ring? So in other words, they're screwed. And Bradley Beal, nobody's going to want to take on his max contract, so they're stuck. That's the Suns for you. But then the final series, you have the number 4 seeded Los Angeles Clippers taking on the 5th seeded Dallas Mavericks. The series right now is currently tied 2-2. If I told you that this series would be tied 2-2 with the Clippers winning 2 games without Kawhi Leonard on the court taking on the Dallas Mavericks, I would have said that you were crazy. But this is the type of series that we have right now in the Western Conference right now. Now, it really has been a fun back-and-forth series between the Clippers and the Mavericks. James Harden and Paul George have stepped up offensively for the Clippers in the absence of Kawhi Leonard in this series. Now, this series really reminded me how special Kyrie Irving is. Shout out to our guy, Michi Jones. Michi is a big Kyrie Irving fan. And Kyrie Irving is actually proving once again why he's one of the most talented point guards in the NBA, one of the most talented point guards of this generation, one of the most talented point guards to ever play the position in the NBA. I mean, the man has playmaking abilities, outstanding handles, outside of this world. I think this series could push to 7. The way how this is being played out, I'm going to stick with my prediction, though. I think the Mavericks will find a way to advance in this series go ahead and play OKC in the second round. But those are my thoughts on the first round of the NBA playoffs.